welcome. I'm Asuma Katauka and you're watching The World Report on NewsX World. Let's take a look at the top headlines of this hour. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu will depart for the United States on Sunday to meet with President Donald Trump in Florida a day later, according to an Israeli official. It will be Netanyahu's fifth visit to see Trump in the United States this year. At least 15 people were killed and 19 others injured after a passenger bus plunged into a ravine on the Inter-American Highway in western Guatemala. According to officials, the victims include 11 men, 3 women, and a minor. The United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres strongly condemned the terrorist bombing that targeted a mosque in Homs, stressing the need to identify those responsible for the attacks on civilians and places of worship and bring them to justice. Thai Defense Ministry spokesperson has said that Thailand and Cambodia have agreed to a second ceasefire this year to halt weeks of deadly border clashes that has killed at least 101 people, as both militaries now have agreed to maintain direct communication. A Russian drone and missile barrage on Kyiv has killed one person, wounds dozens, and leaves hundreds of thousands without power and heating in freezing temperatures. The hours-long air alert comes ahead of President Volodymyr Zelensky's planned meeting with President Trump to discuss a possible peace plan. Saudi-led forces warn that they are ready to act directly against Yemen's separatists, while Riyadh urges them to peacefully hand back seized territory. Saudi officials say the priority is protecting civilians after strikes in Hadramaut and escalating tensions with UAE-backed forces. According to Syrian state media, the funeral of victims killed in the recent terrorist bombing at the mosque in Homs took place with hundreds of residents and officials in attendance. The ceremony highlighted public unity as authorities vowed to maintain stability and protect civilians in the city. Ivorians are heading to vote today to elect 255 members of Côte d'Ivoire's National Assembly with around 8.7 million voters. More than 2,700 candidates, including 800 independents and Laurent Gbagbo-linked African People's Party boycotting the poll. Now we start with Africa. Residents in the Somali capital have voiced concerns after Israel formally recognized Somaliland as an independent state. On the streets of Mogadishu, some expressed shock at images circulating online showing Somaliland supporters carrying the Israeli flag. Others argued the decision undermines Somalia's unity. This comes as Israel became the first country to formally recognize the self-declared Republic of Somaliland as an independent and sovereign state, a move observers say could reshape regional dynamics and test Somalia's long-standing opposition to secession. Meanwhile, the Somali government has condemned Israel's announcement as an unlawful step and a deliberate attack on its sovereignty, insisting that Somaliland remains part of Somalia. Let's listen into what some of the residents have shared.
maamul goboleedka Soomaaliyeed ee Somaliland ay aqoonsi ka heshay Israa'iil oo iyaduna waxa way caalamka aqoonsi weyn ka haysan laakiin dhowr dawladood ay aqoonsi dawladnimo aqoonsi yihiin ruuxantii horta marka koowaad bana waxaa in maanta dad Soomaaliyeed iyo dal Soomaaliyeed iyo deegaanadii iyo qof hogaamiyaal Soomaaliyeed ay go'aanka ku dhaqaaqaan ruuxantii horta marka koowaad bana waxu nahay
Somaliland la aqoonsaday waxay nagu tahay dhaawac weyn ay nagu tahay mana ogolaan doonto Soomaaliya dhulka iskale ee malaha maxay Somaliland wax Somaliland la yiraahdo ma jiraan
ama geeska gobolka Afrika loo soo raray gaar ahaan Soomaaliya loo soo raray taasna yani ma aqbali karno waana saameyn xoog badan aan la yeeli karin qof walba damiir leh muslim ah oo macnaha wadaniyad ku jirto.
Now we move on to our next news. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu will be traveling to the United States on Sunday for talks with President Donald Trump in Florida, according to an Israeli official. This will be Netanyahu's fifth visit to meet Trump in the US this year, highlighting the close coordination between the two leaders. The visit comes as the Trump administration, along with regional mediators, push to move forward with the second phase of ceasefire agreement between Israel and Hamas in the Gaza Strip. President Trump has said earlier this month that Netanyahu was likely to visit him during the Christmas holiday period, though the meeting had not been formally scheduled at that time. Israeli media reports that discussions are expected to cover a broad range of regional issues, including Iran, possible security arrangements involving Syria, the ceasefire with Hezbollah in Lebanon, and the next steps in the Gaza deal, where progress has so far been slow. Now, for this discussion, we welcome Mr. David K. Johnston. He's an American author and professor, joins us live from New York. Thank you very much, Professor Johnston, for joining us again. Good to see you. Now, what do you think what's on the table, and what will be the priority of the upcoming fifth talks between U.S. President Donald Trump and Netanyahu?
Well, Donald Trump very much wants to be seen as a man of peace. He claims he's settled 8 wars, at least one of which never took place. And his administration and his representatives, including Ambassador Witkoff, are annoyed, that's using a polite word, at the Netanyahu government's continued violations of the ceasefire. In the last 2 months, more than 400 Palestinians have been killed by Israeli Defense Forces. Israeli Defense Forces have gone into locations and told people they may not harvest the olive crop, they may not do other normal activities. And so Netanyahu here has to persuade Trump that he's not going to submarine Donald Trump's efforts to build his image as a peacemaker. And that undoubtedly will include Trump saying, you got to knock off this, it would appear in many cases, gratuitous killings, especially of children in Gaza.
Yes, thank you for highlighting that. And Mr. Johnston, how do you think, how aligned are U.S. President Donald Trump and Netanyahu in particular to, the ceasefire, also Somaliland issue, that U.S. hasn't recognized Somaliland, but Israel has, and also disarming of Hamas? As we following the news, it seems like realistically disarming Hamas soon. U.S. understands the possibility, or how possible it is and not possible it is, but it seems like Israel is still pushing for the full disarmament of Hamas. So how do you think, how aligned are they right now?
Well, clearly Israel wants Hamas out, and it wants to completely disarm Hamas. There's no reason to think that Hamas is going to give up its weapons. They have not been responding in kind to the IDF's gratuitous attacks on civilians, but they're also not gone from Gaza. And the Israeli government, in this decision to represent the breakaway portion of Somali, is clearly demonstrating that it's going to do anything it can to disrupt forces in the countries around it. And remember, Israel feels very threatened because it's surrounded by hostile, or what it views as hostile, forces, and that motivates their actions.
Right. And how do you think, how will, President Trump be, or how calm will he be, knowing that there's some disagreements between these two leaders, and also knowing that he, like you said earlier in our discussion, that he is pushing or he wants to achieve peace in some regions as soon as possible, and we know that his popularity is going down. So how frustrated is he now?
Well, Donald, who the audience should know I've known and covered for more than 37 years, is desperately in need at all times of adulation, of people telling him how great he is, even though he's not. At the same time, he is appallingly ignorant about the world. He has no understanding of the history of the creation of the State of Israel, of the Nakba, or anything else. And so Netanyahu's task is going to be to mollify Trump and persuade him that he's not going to undercut Trump's efforts to pose as this great peacemaker, because Trump is so desperate for adulation, he took this phony award from the soccer group FIFA as a peace prize. So Netanyahu's focus here has to be on buttering up Donald, which is crucial to getting things out of Donald, I can tell you from negotiating with him many times, and mollifying him. But I don't expect Netanyahu to change his fundamental policies, which are incredibly anti the presence of Palestinians in what used to be called Palestine.
Right. Thank you very much, Mr. David K. Johnston, for joining us today and sharing that insight with us on NewsX World. Now we move on to Russia and Ukraine. Russia's defense ministry has claimed that its forces have taken control of the strategically important city of Kupiansk in Ukraine's Kharkov region. In its daily operational update on Saturday today, the ministry has said that units of Russia's West Group of forces are now in control of the city and are carrying out clearance operations targeting Ukrainian troops sheltering in buildings and underground basements. The claim follows remarks by Russian President Vladimir Putin, who said during his annual end-of-year press conference on December 19th that Kupiansk was under Russian military control. Putin also claimed that around 3,500 Ukrainian soldiers have been surrounded by Russian forces near the city, though Kyiv has not confirmed these assertions. Kupiansk has been a key logistics hub in eastern Ukraine, and control of the city could have significant implications for military operations in the region. Ukraine has not yet responded to the latest claims from Moscow. Now for this discussion, we welcome retired Major General Sudhakarji. He's a senior geopolitical and strategic defense expert, joins us live from New Delhi. Thank you very much, Major General, for joining us again. Great to have you. Now looking at this, as we know, the escalations continue from both sides. We also know that the talks, Ukrainian leader is going for the talks with Trump tomorrow, and he will be talking with EU allies. Looking at this crucial time right now, once again, should Ukraine prioritize unity with EU allies or flexibility in talks with the US? And how important is allied coordination for Ukraine before entering peace negotiations with US once again?
Suma, good evening. Thank
Good
you
evening.
for inviting me.
Thank you.
For the show.
Thank you.
I can make out what you are saying, the orientation of your question. Your voice is getting distorted and broken, but despite that, give me a chance to attempt responding to your question. As on today, we know that there is a peace proposal, 28 point, further revised to, I think it has been brought down to some smaller number. But importantly, Zelensky is going to meet the president of USA, and within next couple of days' time, maybe tomorrow, at Florida. And your question is centering around, while the peace talk is being negotiated and progressed, isn't this attack by Russia going to put into a negative spiral? Yes, the answer is yes, it will. But why is Russia doing what it is doing? That is to be understood. Russia is actually resorting to retribution of a terrorist attack by Kyiv. And more than this, what I would say, why is it actually focusing on to Kyiv? That needs to be understood. Why this particular location? This location, way back in 2022, our audience and viewers would do well to take the memory back. This location was under Ukraine from February till September 2022. Thereafter, Russian forces had taken it. And thereafter, you see, it has been a ding-dong battle going on. Then the Ukraine people, they pushed back the Russians. Now the Russians are recapturing. Why is this place so important? This place is important because it is in the Kharkiv Oblast. It is a very important communication center. When I say communication center, what it means is It is a major railway junction, railway and national highway junction, connectivity point of view. It is also a headquarter of administrative establishment. It has got troops worth around 3,000 odd troops. And till I would say as late as 15th of December 2025, almost about 90% of this particular place is to be under occupation of Ukraine. Now Russians have pushed them back. They've started taking it because it offers multi-directions. Once you capture this particular city, you not only take the connective, the access of railway line and national highway, but the avenues to approach places like Sumy, Kharkiv, then it further goes on to Kiev. This is one of the ways, one of the approaches to actually threaten Kiev. They want to keep the pressure on so that on the negotiating table, Russia has got an upper hand. Second point that comes to my mind is also retribution. If they do not retaliate, then they will continue to put Russia under extended pressure. And third and most important point is that it is not tit for tat. It is the dominance. The Russia is a much more powerful and dominant force against the Ukraine. Ukraine is going through a very huge criticality. Besides passing through winter, all the power centers have been either demolished or they have been put into state of disrepair. Therefore, without power in a country like Ukraine to live through the winter, it is as good as committing suicide. So therefore, Russia wants to actually strangulate Ukraine so as to derive maximum leverage or mileage in the forthcoming negotiation table. And also to prove that if you continue to hurt us, we'll continue to double down and hurt you much more than what you can do to us. That's all, Asuba. Back to you, please.
Thank you very much, Major General Sudhakarji, for sharing that insight. Please stay with us as we come back to you for our next discussion as well. Now we stay on this topic. Residents in Kyiv have expressed anger and frustration after a major Russian strike hit the Ukrainian capital, saying the attack showed Moscow had no intention of pursuing peace. Emergency crews have worked through the early hours to clear debris from a damaged residential apartment building after a drone crashed into the structure. The strike was part of a wider Russian assault across Ukraine, with hundreds of drones and missiles launched overnight. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has said the attack involved around 500 drones and 40 missiles, knocking out power and heating in parts of Kyiv. Let's listen into what some residents have shared.
Тобто ми говоримо про те, що Російська Федерація навряд посилає меседж, що вона піднімає ставки в цій війні, що вона не хоче закінчувати цю війну, вона хоче нас поглинути в хаос, не тільки енергетичний, вона хоче нас залякати на закінченні 4-го року.
Щоб нам не давали ні зброю, ні гроші, а вони собі потихеньку будуть робити те, що їм потрібно. От і все. Да, так як сьогодні, да. Вони просто роблять вид, що вони хочуть миру, а насправді ми всі знаємо, вони цього не хочуть.
Now for this discussion, we welcome back retired Major General Sudhakarji. He's a senior geopolitical and strategic defense expert, joins us live from New Delhi. Thank you very much, Major General, for staying with us. Now, what do you think, what challenges or sticking points are there between U.S. and Ukraine as Ukraine heads to talks right now?
Anyway, there is lack of clarity in your modulation. Still, I can make out if I have got the sense.
I'm so sorry. Yes.
No issue. There is some problem in the technical section. Doesn't matter. Yes, you see, between Ukraine and Russia, we need to understand at least some beginning has been made. And for that beginning, you see, a lot of scale down of aspiration and expectations of Ukraine has been achieved to large an extent. Same Ukraine, couple of months back, was not prepared to cede land. They've started talking in terms of ceding land to bring back normalcy and peace. They have also started talking of ceasefire. They have started talking of neutral status. At times you keep hearing they will be getting that European Union membership, etc., etc. That's okay. Russia is also, earlier it had adopted a very kind of extreme stance that European Union or NATO membership is not allowed. Now they have started expressing themselves that, okay, Ukraine can go in for the European Union membership. So all these things, this is a process of transformation. This is a process of change. Change management will always start, it will touch 4 or 5 paradigms: denial, resistance, reconciliation, adaptation, and acceptance. Both the stakeholders, they have to pass through these 5 major milestones to accept each other's viewpoint and to accept each other's stance in order to bring back, restore peace and normalcy. Towards that end, I would compliment Donald Trump, notwithstanding the pressure which is mounting against him on multiple issues, including Epstein file. This is a great move. This is a great initiative by him. His intentions are very noble, but there are people within America and Europe who do not want this to go ahead. They want to sabotage the entire effort of peace and normalcy. So wish him all the very best. I'm sure in times ahead, Russia and Ukraine will sit down together. They will come to a practical and acceptable solution in order to bring back ceasefire and normalcy and stability in the region, so that peace dawns on this mindless conflict which has been raging for past nearly approximately 4 years. Back to you, Ashoka.
Yes, I hope so too. Thank you for sharing such powerful message with us, Major General Sudhakarji. Thank you very much. Now we move on to Europe. A Spanish family of 4 is missing after a tourist boat sank in the Padar Island, strait near Labuan Bajo, Indonesia on Friday night. The boat carrying 11 people capsized in rough seas with waves of up to 3 meters high. Meanwhile, 7 others, including the mother, a daughter, 4 crew members, and a tour guide, were rescued safely. The search for the remaining 4, including a father and 3 children, started on Saturday. It has been hampered by strong currents and high waves, and it will be resuming tomorrow morning. Padar Island has been closed to tourists due to the extreme weather conditions. This incident is part of a broader issue of frequent maritime accidents in Indonesia, which is prone to rough seas and often lacks stringent safety measures. Now we move on to Asia. China has passed revisions to its foreign trade law to strengthen its ability to respond to trade disputes, control exports of strategic minerals and controversial goods, and further open its $19 trillion economy. Approved by China's top legislature, the changes will be taking effect on March 1st next year. The updated law expands tools for digital and green trade, intellectual property, and opening restricted sectors to foreign firms, while also emphasizing that trade should support national economic and social development. The revisions also clarify the government's powers to prevent conflicts with private exporters following controversies involving companies like Shein. According to experts, the move reflects China's push to modernize its trade rules, meet international standards, and reduce reliance on the U.S. Now we welcome Mr. Ross Feingold. He's a political analyst, joins us live from Taipei. Thank you very much, Mr. Feingold, for joining us again. Good to see you. Now, looking at this, why do you think China has passed this revision to its foreign trade law?
It remains to be seen what the implementation of these changes actually mean. I mean, keeping in mind that China could have all sorts of laws governing international trade or foreign currency or the domestic market or the regulation of internet companies, but ultimately what matters is how the government decides to implement these laws, and are they going to open up the domestic market to foreign companies, for example? That's certainly a concern from other countries. So one of the things that's being discussed in the aftermath of these changes is whether or not it's a signal that China wants to show its strong desire to harmonize its laws so that it could be invited into the Comprehensive and Progressive Trans-Pacific Partnership, the CPTPP trade agreement, which China applied to in 2021. And the 2026 chair country of the CPTPP is Vietnam. And it's very possible that there will be progress on China's application to join the CPTPP next year. But again, ultimately, the key thing here is not really what is in the black and white of the law, but rather how the Chinese government chooses to implement it.
So do you think can these revisions reduce China's dependence on US, and what geopolitical consequences could follow?
Again, all of this is really subject to the decisions of the government and ultimately the party and Xi Jinping. China wants to present the image to its trading partners, whether that's the United States, Europe, Japan, Australia, that China is a nation based on laws, and we're updating our laws for current circumstances. For example, some of the revisions that were approved today deal with digital trade and digital certificates and digital exchange of information in the course of documentation for international trade and cross-border payments. And it very well may be the case that this does facilitate making it easier for buyers or sellers to deal with counterparties in China. But ultimately, again, it's up to the decision of the Chinese leadership how open they want their economy to be, and are they going to address the concerns of other countries, whether that's the US, Europe, about how open the market is to international competition.
And lastly, how might this law's emphasis on supporting China's national economic and social development, will it influence foreign investment in China, do you think?
Yeah, that's a really interesting question, because we have to be frank. The trend around the world, whether that's the United States, Europe, Australia, other places, is to have a significantly more stringent review of cross-border trade or acquisitions or other activities by foreign companies entering those countries. So in an era where there's more review about the activities of foreign companies, and frankly a lot of this is targeted at China, no, China is basically saying, fine, if you're going to have a more stringent review about Chinese investment in the EU or the United States or Australia, we'll do the same thing. And it's simply parity. And that does make it difficult for other countries to say, well, China, you're not being fair, because the reality is other countries have increased their scrutiny of Chinese investments. And now China's going to say, we're going to do the same thing to foreign companies doing business in China.
Yes, we will be eyeing that. Thank you very much, Mr. Feingold, for joining us today as a political analyst and sharing that insight. Well, that's all we have time for. Keep watching NewsX World for more news.